Welcome back, Eager to Pleasers. We're just about to wrap up our second topic here on the Eager to Please podcast on family matters, so I wanted to share a few closing thoughts with you. But first things first, if you hadn't had a chance to check out last week's episode with Megan Flores, make sure you do yourself a favor and go listen to our episode together. She shares her perspective and useful nuggets about people pleasing and family dynamics. Then go follow her on her socials. I'll link them again in this episode. She's a gem of a human with very relatable and painfully honest advice. Check this out. She recently shared this thought. We live in a world with endless options. What to eat, how to work, where to send your kids to school, who to marry, how to spend money. If you don't know what you value, it brings chaos. You'll look to other people or the world to tell you what to pick, and they aren't you. So it's important to be clear on what you value. So then you can live a life in alignment, which brings peace. I mean, is that not spot on? Know your own story. Something I found interesting about our conversation together is that the parent you think harmed you the most actually isn't the parent who harmed you the most at all. When I reflect on that statement and apply it to my own life, it makes a lot more sense now that I'm an adult. And I have a lot of respect for the process of raising kids because parenting is hard, even if you do it half right. Right, Mom? I also appreciated the reminder that nurturing energy should be coming from the parent and going to the child, at least while they're under the age of 18, not the other way around. This one hit home quite a bit now that I'm a parent myself, because when I was a child, I remember trying to make sure my parents were okay while they were going through their separation, and then later dealing with my dad's illness. I would do little things like try and help keep the house clean, make sure my dad took his vitamins and trial drugs, get my homework done without being reminded. In fact, I don't remember a time that either one of them really asked me, "Are you okay, Natalie?" It wasn't until my dad passed away that I was forced into my first therapy session. I had no say in the matter. I was going. It's no wonder I hated it for so long. I was dealing with so many big feelings that I didn't understand why I needed to talk about them or why I had to share them with a complete stranger. Ironically, I noticed some of the same exact traits in my daughters that I had as a child. So I feel like I'm pretty in tune to what's going on when I notice those tiny signals creeping up. Here's an example. My youngest is pretty damn good at shutting down when something is bothering her. She can be stubborn and mean too when she doesn't want to talk about it. In fact, I get the never mind or nothing when I ask her what's bothering her. And while I can't make her talk to me, I at least hope she notices I'm acknowledging the change in her attitude. Maybe one day she'll take me up on a mother-daughter heart-to-heart. I can only hope, and I can only help if she lets me in. And that's what I keep reminding her. I wanted to get us ready and thinking about our next chapter on boundaries by sharing this concept I read in a book called Brave, Not Perfect by Reshma Saujani, who's an American lawyer and founder of the nonprofit organization Girls Who Code. And that concept is perfect or bust. Funny enough, Megan touched on a variation of this thought too during our conversation, and the notion of striving to achieve perfection so that we can keep getting positive reinforcement. In Reshma's book, she describes the need to please everyone as a chokehold, which, speaking from experience, is so true. She goes on to explain that as girls, we are bubble wrapped and taught to play it safe, to be quiet and polite, and encouraged to participate in activities that make us shine. So as women, we grow up afraid to fail. We're led to believe that if we build the perfect me, that will lead to the perfect life. Look at all the examples Megan and I talked about last week, and we're only two individuals in a world full of people. We both strive to get straight A's so we could please our parents and teachers. We were both athletic. In fact, she went on to coach golf at the collegiate level, but her heart wasn't really in it. We both majored in a safe major because we would always have job security regardless if we liked the subject matter or our jobs. We could get married to a handsome guy, have a few kids, drive a nice car, build the perfect dream house with the white picket fence, and sit back and drink wine at night with friends for the rest of our lives. But none of that mattered. Neither of us were 100% happy living out those stories, and both of us felt unfulfilled, wanting more. I'm willing to bet that so many of you listening to this podcast feel the same way. You just haven't been able to figure out a way to speak up so you can become more aligned with your values and what's really true to you. Reshma goes on to say that women don't take risks in our personal and professional lives because we fear we'll be judged, embarrassed, discredited, or ostracized if we get it wrong. We consciously or unconsciously hold ourselves back from trying anything we're not certain will ace to avoid the potential pain and humiliation. I mean, I see this in my 14-year-old daughter who won't submit applications for certain school clubs unless she's totally sure she'll be accepted because she's afraid of being rejected. I'm telling you, this stuff is real. The need to be perfect holds us back in so many ways. We don't speak up for ourselves when we know deep down we should because we don't want to be seen as bitchy or straight up unlikable. And when we do speak up, we overthink and agonize how to express ourselves, trying to give just the right amount of assertiveness without seeming too bossy or aggressive. We obsess and overanalyze every angle before we make a decision, no matter how small, because we don't want to make a mistake. And if we do make a mistake, we lose sleep and feel as if our world is ending. We might run ourselves ragged, trying to do it all, ending up exhausted, depleted, or sick because we give so much energy and time to others. And here's one that I struggle with all the time personally. We say yes when we wanted to say no for fear of not being liked. Our relationships and hearts suffer when we put up this facade of perfection because it protects us from being vulnerable and allowing others to see our flaws. But it also isolates us from those we love and keeps us from creating truly meaningful and authentic relationships. When we try to be perfect, we become trapped in a state of soul-crushing discontentment. We end up staying in social circles or careers that bring us down or make us miserable, or even worse, we stay in relationships that bring us pain. When we hold ourselves to this impossible standard of perfection, there's no true success because nothing is ever enough. I can't even count the number of times in my life I was told by my own mother and ex-husband that my standards were too high. And my response was always to put up my guard and go on the defensive. I would respond by saying, I would never, ever hold anyone to the same standards that I don't hold myself accountable for. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? If we all upheld the same standards, it would solve a whole hell of a lot of problems. But the problem with that way of thinking is that not everyone does. Not everyone wants to jam-pack their schedules full so that they barely have time to grab lunch in the middle of the day and then expect that someone else could come in and manage the same schedule. I was definitely guilty of this, thinking I was capable of being in two places at the same time, which we all know is not possible for anyone. But yet I would still manage to find a way to make it all fit in. Just listening to myself say that gives me anxiety because it seems like I was adding unnecessary stress to my day when all I had to do was say, okay, something has to give because I can't possibly do it all. How was I ever going to be happy when all I ever felt was let down because I was holding others to the same unattainable expectations for myself? It was a constant losing battle, and I didn't realize I was driving myself crazy for thinking that way. Reshma further emphasizes how we go from trying to be perfect students, daughters, wives, moms, professionals, hitting all the marks we're supposed to, but wonder why we're so overwhelmed, frustrated, and unhappy. It's like saying, something's missing, but I did everything right, so what went wrong? Unfortunately, I learned the hard way that by setting such unrealistic goals for myself and everyone else around me, I was actually doing more harm than good. I thought that by creating this perfect life, I would be one of the lucky ones to escape a life of sadness and unpredictability. Turns out I was wrong. Toxic people pleasing, as Reshma says, quickly makes your life become about what others think and very little about what you genuinely want, need, and believe, let alone what you deserve. Working so hard to make everyone else like me only made me not like myself very much. Talk about the painful truth, but it was and still is the truth. This is why it's so important we know our true values. I'm going to circle back around to what I shared at the beginning of the episode from one of Megan's recent posts. She said, if you don't know what you value, it brings chaos. You'll look to other people or the world to tell you what to pick, and they aren't you. So it's important to be clear on what you value. So then you can live a life in alignment, which brings peace. It's so hard to separate the nature versus nurture aspect of people pleasing because I truly think there's an equal part of both responsible for shaping us as humans. How you were raised, your family's beliefs or disbeliefs, birth order, and so on, all have a role. But investing the time to know your personal story, what you truly want out of your time here, is worth it. And so are you. I hope to see you back for the next episode. We have some great things ahead. I'll see you then. Why